Hello and welcome to Creator Weekly for the week ending June 1st, 2025. I'm Peggy Kay, and this week there's a bunch of YouTube updates, especially for live streamers, and there's updates from Spotify, WordPress, and a bunch more. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're having a great weekend. And I wanted to mention that I know last week it was all about the AI with Google I/O. This week, mostly not AI, although it's hard to avoid it entirely. A couple of quick notes. The first thing is that YouTube, the YouTube Shorts editor, has AI features. One is Dream Screen that lets you generate videos, and the other is Dream Track that lets you generate music. Those are going to use Google's latest media models, Veo 3 for the video and Lyria 2 for the music. So if you want to use the latest, you can do that in the YouTube Shorts editor on your mobile device. The other update that I thought was kind of interesting is that Google announced they will start placing a visible watermark on generated videos. So they already have this invisible synth ID watermark, but now they're going to be putting a visible watermark unless you have an AI Ultra subscription. That's like $250 a month. So it's nothing to sneeze at. And you're using the Flow filmmaking tool. So otherwise, there's going to be a visible watermark on any videos you generate with Google's tools. So those are the follow-ups from Google I/O. Let's get started with this week's updates. So for me, the biggest announcement this week from YouTube is that they're going to start showing side-by-side mid-roll ads in live streams. That's a mouthful, but what that means is that on live streams, this is not video on demand, this is not shorts, they're going to have a different mid-roll ad format. Normally in a live stream, if you have YouTube inserting mid-rolls while you're live, those mid-roll ads actually make you miss part of the live stream. So the mid-roll ad plays and the live stream keeps streaming. And then when the ad ends, you rejoin, basically, the live stream. This new format is less intrusive, so you don't miss anything. So this is what the side-by-side ads look like when you're live streaming and the viewer is watching. What the viewer sees is the ad comes up and the live stream video shrinks. So now you have them side by side, like you see in the picture here, live stream on one side, ad on the other. The live stream is muted so that the audio from the ad can play. And then when the ad is over, or if the viewer skips the ad, you get the live stream re-expanding, the audio comes back on. So just a couple of notes. This isn't every mid-roll ad on live streams. This is only on normal latency streams. And this will only display on desktop in the browser or on TVs. So it kind of makes sense that this kind of ad format is only on bigger screens. If you are a creator monetizing and you want these kind of ads to play, you need to go into the settings for your live stream, make sure that mid-rolls are enabled, and select the option, let YouTube decide where they're inserted. That lets YouTube automatically place the mid-roll ads. And you have to do that before your live stream begins. So this will be interesting. I'll be interested to actually see this in action. And I don't run midroll ads while I'm streaming, in part because it's so disruptive. But I'm thinking, is it worth trying this? Because people won't hear me talking when the ads come up, but maybe that's not a big deal if people have captions or they just skip the ad after 15 seconds. So that's this week's big update. The other sort of big live streaming related update I wanted to mention is that YouTube now supports the AV1 video codec for live streams. The nice thing about this is this is improved compression. Codec means compression, decompression. In practical terms, that means the live streams should look sharper, clearer, less blurry, which is great for viewers. And I wanted to mention a tidbit that I thought was kind of interesting about the AV1 codec. This is from the Alliance for Open Media. This is an open source, royalty-free codec. The other standards body is the Moving Pictures Experts Group. That's MPEG. So if you see anything with MPEG, that is from the Moving Pictures Experts Group, and those codecs are not royalty-free. So the Alliance for Open Media is actually this alliance of all the big media companies because they wanted to have codecs that they could use without having to pay royalties. And so if you look at the governing members of this alliance, it's Amazon, Apple, ARM, Cisco, Google, Huawei, Intel, Meta, Mozilla, Netflix, NVIDIA, Samsung, and Tencent. Those are all the big players. And so you'll see these formats more frequently. There's already use of the AV1 video format for regular YouTube videos, not live streams. So this is a technical improvement. And I just wanted to mention, if you're curious about what format a live stream or video is using, you can actually see that information looking at the stats for nerds, even if you're not a nerd. On mobile, you need to enable this in your settings. On desktop, you should be able to just right-click or alt-click on the video itself, on the video player, select stats for nerds, and then what you'll see is all this technical information. It is truly nerdy. But if the video codec information starts with AV01, that's the AV1 codec, you don't actually need to know any of this technical information. I think all current browsers and recent devices support this. So that just means you should be seeing clearer live streams. You know, I think that this mostly affects really visually active live streams, less live streams like me talking and more like people playing video games and stuff. I think it'll be much more visible. Right now, this is only in some high traffic live streams, really popular ones. This one I found, it was, you know, like a live stream of a game. And then the last live streaming update I wanted to mention, YouTube is testing leaderboards. So you have a live stream and your viewers can get points by engaging. And that means posting in the chat, super chat, super stickers. And it creates this leaderboard with the top 50 viewers, and the very top 3 viewers get a special badge in the live chat. So that's the incentive there. And the leaderboard also shows in the chat replay. So obviously, this is a way to try and get people to engage more. As a viewer, you can opt out of the leaderboards. You can go into your YouTube settings right now, opt out of being on the leaderboards. As a creator, you cannot opt out, as best I can tell. So this isn't great for creators because having something like the leaderboard changes people's behavior. You know, if people want to be at the top, they're probably going to be posting a lot more comments and so forth. It's not great that creators can't opt out if they don't want this. Hopefully, once it goes beyond the experimental stage, assuming it does, there'll be more controls. And then there are a few more updates from YouTube this week. The first is that if you are monetizing, there are improvements to the accuracy of determining your videos are suitable to show ads. As they say, the yellow icon is when you have limited ads. That's kind of like when your video is kind of borderline ad friendly, advertiser friendly. So what they're doing now is you upload, you go through a questionnaire about the content, and then it automatically determines if your video is suitable for ads. And if it's shown to have limited ads, now it's going through an automatic re-review, which should be more accurate. And this is actually an update. I think they started doing this back in March, maybe, but now it's rolled out more widely, and they've been sharing more detailed information about how this works exactly. And I think the important thing is you can see that it's undergoing additional review. If you go into YouTube Studio on desktop, there'll be a notice of that. And this additional review can take up to 24 hours, which means you should allow that time, especially if your content is maybe a little borderline advertiser friendly. Just allow enough time after you upload for all these checks to be completed so that when you make the video public, the ads are showing if appropriate. And then YouTube has been running an experiment allowing people to leave an audio recording as a reply to comments. This has been tested on iOS devices in the YouTube mobile app. This is expanding the test to Android devices. If you see this option, give it a try. Send feedback to YouTube about how you think it works. It's not something I envision myself ever using, but I know some people like to leave voice comments. It seems like there's a real potential for abuse here, though, for people saying rude things. So it'd be interesting to see if they have sort of protections if they roll this out more widely. And there is a brand new feature in beta in YouTube Shorts that lets you do searches with Google Lens. So if you've used Google Lens, this is using basically a visual search. And the idea is you're in the YouTube Shorts feed on mobile. You pause the video because you see something you want to learn more about. And you tap the lens option. There's a little button at the top. And then you can circle the item you want it to search for. And it does a search. It overlays the Shorts feed. And then once you're done looking at the information, it brings you back into the Shorts feed. It reminds me a lot of the Android circle to search option, but this is built into Shorts, and so it doesn't take you out of the video viewing. And this is rolling out in the coming weeks. Again, it's in beta, but you should be able to give it a try and see what you think. Kind of an interesting idea. I wonder how often people actually are interested in learning more. This is a cute example where it's like, oh, there's this cute dog. You circle that and it tells you about the breed of the dog. But they say, as an example, you could find travel information. So you say, oh, that's an interesting landmark in the background of that short. You circle that, it does a search, it tells you what it is. So that's it for the YouTube updates. There's a couple of updates for video in Google Drive I wanted to mention briefly. The first thing is that there is an analytics section. If you go into video details. This is a video uploaded to Google Drive that you shared with other people. You can now go into the details and see the analytics section, and it will tell you how many times it's been opened. So you get an idea if people are actually viewing this video that you shared. The other is that they've integrated Gemini onto that page, so you can ask questions about the video, which is kind of an interesting feature. You can get a summary, a list of action items, that kind of thing for any video that's in English. That particular feature is rolling out over the next couple of weeks. So of course, AI everywhere. I can't get away from that. So I'm going to take a moment and switch over to Spotify. So Spotify, as you know, they have podcasts. They're really pushing that. The podcasts are both audio and video. Some competition with YouTube there. They made several updates to make these podcasts more discoverable and to increase engagement. I'll just mention the engagement options in the comments that people can leave on the podcast. Those can now be threaded, and you can leave emoji reactions. That's a little bit more engaging. And as a creator, you can set moderation levels for the comments. I think that's one of the downsides of comments that you don't necessarily hear about a lot. You have comments enabled, you end up spending time moderating them. YouTube is actually pretty good at hiding spammy comments. You can restore them if you want, but I'm not sure how good Spotify is. That may be a difference there. And then the other update for Spotify is that creators can add in this episode links. These links can go to anything else on Spotify. So this is not external links to third-party sites. You can link to podcasts, specific episodes, artists, songs, audiobooks, any of those. And the idea is you can link to content that you're featuring in your podcast, or you can link to other creators. It seems like a pretty good feature. And it keeps people inside Spotify since it's only internal links. Okay, I'm going to switch over to blogging for a moment. Medium, it's a blogging platform. It's got social features. It's sort of self-contained. They made a change where there's a new button. People who are reading can basically just click to choose to get email updates. And what Medium found is that the way they implemented this boosted people subscribing by email 7-fold, which is huge. And so what conclusions can you draw from this? The conclusion Medium is drawing is that people don't like to give up their email address. And so they have this button, it emails to whatever email address Medium has for you, and you're not actually sharing your email with the author of the posts. So as a creator, as a blog owner, this means that the future isn't building any sort of email list for you the way a newsletter would. It kind of sucks a little bit because there's this whole sense of, as a creator, you should own your audience and make sure that you can switch platforms if you need to. And features like this basically lock you in to the platform. This locks you into Medium. I do understand, at a personal level, why people don't necessarily want to give their email address to every blogger that they're interested in, but it's not ideal. So again, I think a lot of this is shaking out now. People are trying to build their audience. They're trying to not get locked into specific platforms, and then the platforms keep locking people in. And people who are readers, viewers on these platforms, they don't care. It's like, oh, I'm on Medium. I'd rather just do everything through Medium, which kind of makes sense, but it means that you can't leave. So I don't have a good explanation for what that's going to do in the long term, but it's a struggle. Also, for bloggers, WordPress. This is WordPress, the open source content management platform, not WordPress.com, which is the commercial platform owned by Matt Mullenweg. WordPress has formed a WordPress AI team. The idea is that this team will help lead the process of exploring AI-powered features for WordPress. They're going to mostly focus on using plugins because those are easy to change and get feedback and iterate on that. So I guess this was inevitable, and bloggers are already using AI tools, I'm sure, so it kind of makes sense to have an option to build things into the platform directly. The initial AI team is 4 members. There's one from Automatic, that's Matt Mullenweg's company, not surprising. There are 2 from Google. They are not people who work on AI. These are developer relations, web developer relations kinds of folks. And then there's someone from 10up, which is a web design company. It'll be interesting to see what WordPress decides to integrate, because this is changing really rapidly, and it seems like it doesn't make sense to get locked into anything when a year from now the options may be different. So that's something to watch. It was inevitable. And then moving over to LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, they've removed the option to add a link in your profile. This was available in what they called creator mode. Now you need to pay for a premium business plan to have that special custom button link in your profile. And they've also updated their metrics for posts. You can now see profile viewers from posts and new followers from posts. And there is a link engagement metric, but you need this premium button. For the link, at least it will tell you if people are clicking it. And over on Instagram, this is just a small update, and I don't know if you can actually see in the images, but now they actually show photos that are 3x4, the full proportions of that. So previously that was cropped. They cropped a little bit off the top and a little bit off the bottom. Now it's showing the whole proportions, and that's good because 3x4 is the standard proportions of photos you take with a cell phone camera today. So you can still upload images in other dimensions and they'll show that, but this is new. The other update from Instagram is that there is a new expander tool if you upload an image to a story, and it's a landscape image. You can use this expander tool to generate more image. So it fills the screen. So instead of cropping in really close, you have a regular image and it adds to it. It's AI powered. I'm sure this is one of the common uses of generative AI. So that is it for the updates today. I have a really, really short 10 years ago this week on what was happening 10 years ago this week. Again, this is a very brief update. 10 years ago this week, Google launched My Account. This was a central hub for all of your Google account settings, for privacy, for security, for your account history. Before, it was not so nicely organized. And it's basically the same today as it was 10 years ago. They have rearranged things some. There are some bits of information that are now available that weren't available 10 years ago. But in essence, it is the same. And so my challenge to you all is to go to your My Account settings for your Google account, take the security checkup, the privacy checkup, Read the suggestions for security and privacy and update your Google account. Make sure you have a recovery email address and recovery phone number. Disconnect any third-party services that you are no longer using. Make your Google account as secure as it can be so you won't lose access to anything that's important to you. So that's all the updates for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, Andrew has a question. If you're seeing, so this is going back to the mid-roll side-by-side ads. If you're seeing closed captions, can you still see it on the live stream while the ad plays? I think that's an excellent question, and I don't know. That would mean that you're not missing anything, even though the audio is turned off. So it'll be interesting to see. And and when you do the security updates for your Google account and you set up two-step verification, print out the recovery codes. Absolutely. So what happens is you set up two-step verification. And when you do that, you'll see the option to get recovery codes. These are one-time use codes in case you lose the second step. Print them out, write them down accurately. It's easier to print them out because they're long, and store them someplace safe. Obviously not where other people can access them, but you should be storing this information someplace where you can access it if you lose access to your account. So that's really, really important. And take notes. I know they say don't write down your passwords. You should use a password manager, and that's absolutely true. But I also have written information about my account details that I keep in a secure place. Oh, and Andrew says, do not save them on your computer. Yes. If you have recovery codes, don't store them in a place that you need to sign into your account to access them, and don't store them in a place where other people can access them. So keep your account secure, have account recovery options set, and make sure your recovery options are up to date, because it doesn't do you any good to have a recovery phone number that you no longer use. So today, after the live stream is over, go into your My Account settings, make sure all your security settings are up to date. So, thank you so much for joining me. As always, there's another live stream on eBoard immediately after this one, and I will see you all next week.